Hello, this is the Newtypes podcast, the podcast where we stand Mitaka. I am Lone Crit, here with my co-hosts, CBF and Young Kaiser.
And good news, everyone! It turns out that finally, Big West Studio New and Harmony Gold have finally come together, apparently, to focus on anything distribution-wise regarding the Macross franchise. Fucking finally.
Yay!
I have never seen Macross and know nothing about Macross.
The only thing I've seen of Macross thus far was Macross Plus, the OVA, which was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm planning on watching the actual one at some other point, but yeah, I did still. That's a pretty good fucking milestone because I always heard that the publication of that show in the West, especially, has been like a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, like I actually have the movie edition on DVD, which is also fucking awesome. But yeah, just there is a lot to get into regarding like Harmony Gold and how after a while they basically just did nothing with the license and just kept hogging it long after Robotech, i.e. the conglomeration of Macross, Most Piata, and Southern Cross had already come to a close. But now it turns out that all these publishers that basically have been feuding for decades are now actually in talks about some projects regarding Macross and Robotech. So hey, we might actually see some proper localization for stuff like Do You Remember Love, which we don't talk about that one Space Noids thing, or the Clash of the Bionoids thing that was supposed to be the localization for it. So we'll also get more stuff like Macross F, Delta, and anything else that manga entertainment didn't already localize. Or maybe even they might relocalize stuff like Macross Plus and whatnot. But yeah, that's good.
I'm sure in an alternate universe, there is a version of me that cares, but the current universe version of myself does not, and sadly, we do not have portal guns.
Yes, because I totally cared about the Kamen Rider shit last time.
Yeah, not with that attitude. I was about to say, listen, anything is possible when you have the will to do it, okay?
So we need to get to a timeline where Lone Crit is decultured.
Yeah.
Yeah, look. I am Kamen Rider Lone Crit. I am not Kamen Rider Decade, I am not Kamen Rider Geo, and I do not have a magic universe hopping time traveling train. AKA, I am not Kamen Rider Den-O. Okay.
It sounds like a you problem, not an us problem, so...
You got me there.
Yeah, also, listen, we both know that you're not allowed to even touch Macross until you finish the OG Gundam. Which you apparently put on hold to watch Ikkoku.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is watching the beautiful romance between two people in which on the part of one desire turns to affection that turns to love, and on the other goodwill and care turns to affection which turns to love, both growing simultaneously and influencing each other, just not good enough for you?
Yes.
Yes, because...
Because what? Because romance is gay? Because romance is dead? Because fifis are bad?
Well, chivalry is dead, not romance, but whatever.
I disagree.
Yeah, what's
Chivalry
really
and Bell Knight is very
dead
much
is
alive
giant
and well.
robots, which you should be appreciating.
I appreciated giant robots well enough.
Oh, that doesn't sound like it.
Well, I do not appreciate giant robots well enough to watch Evangelion, which I have not watched, and I probably won't for several more years.
Too bad, because Ava's legit one of the best anime of all time.
You know what else is one of the best anime of all time? Maison fucking Ikkoku.
I'll watch that at some point.
As of the last episode I watched, episode 41, I am considering bumping it up to a 9, which you guys know I give sometimes less frequently than once per year.
And that it is indeed your max score, because you don't believe in
Yes.
10s.
I don't believe in 10s, just like I don't believe in Father Christmas and the Easter Bunny.
But we believe in Lola Bunny, which is the important thing.
Yes, we do
Are you
believe in
telling me
Lullaby.
that the Easter Bunny isn't real? Just like the Tooth Fairy isn't real? And like the Queen of England isn't real?
And Light Yagami isn't real?
The guy from Mega Man was right! From Megamind. No!
Also, Sherlock Holmes isn't real. By the way, I heard that apparently, like, at least for this one thing that Simon Whistler did on Biographics for April Fools, 1/4 or 1/5 or something of his audience believed that Sherlock Holmes was real at some point in time. And it's just like, we live in a society.
Oh my god.
Really makes you think.
Everybody knows that Sherlock Holmes is based on the real figure Sherlock Hound.
Of course.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But we talked about 2 episodes ago. But like, what? So I know. So needless to say, you have been very much on the Ikkoku chode hopping train, which we stand. And
We
since
stand,
we didn't have,
Just like Mitaka.
yeah, right. So since we didn't have much time to really talk much about it the last time we mentioned it, how about we go into that a little bit?
Good, great. I encourage more people to watch it. I think it's one of the greatest anime of all time, and it's perhaps the greatest. No, not perhaps. It's the greatest romance anime I've ever seen, and I highly encourage as many people to watch it. I know a lot of people don't like 1980s anime, but
They're wrong.
just like many of them.
They're wrong.
Yeah, they are. Just like many of them, though, this one really holds up. Despite the fact that it's very topical with a lot of its address choices for the characters and a lot of the sort of tropes and stuff you see, even if it is the progenitor or early on in the development in some of them, the types of relationships the characters have, their interactions, their dialogue still holds up incredibly well and feels incredibly contemporary. Because, much like My Hero Academia, Maison Ikkoku is a human story, and human stories never go stale.
How dare you compare the two?
First off, fucking blasphemy, and second off, I'm going to have like an even hotter take than that. Honestly, upon some, and I mean some consideration, I do not have any doubt that Maison Ikkoku is probably a better romance than Origami. Probably.
Yes.
I haven't seen either, so I have no stake in this.
And
But
I
I-
love Origairu.
No, I
You'll
can't-
know it's one of my top 3 favorite anime of all time, which I have resisted an incredible amount of shaming for. But Origairu is not even that geared towards the romantic aspect. Yeah, it is kind of an element, it's there, but it's really more about the character slice of life, occasional drama element.
Yeah. Where this is like almost exclusively about the romance, which is good. And like the thing is, one thing I kind of notice is a lot with like Rumiko Takahashi's work in general, which is pretty much exemplified in Ikkoku. Well, that I noticed while I was watching it, is like one of the big, I guess one of the running themes she always has in her works is like the theme of indecisiveness and sincerity, and the lines between the two and how characters express them, right? You know what I mean? Like with Godai, for example. Generally he's indecisive, a lot of which is attributed to his immaturity, for obvious reasons, since he's so young and had very, like, I guess, not lackadaisical, but kind of lacking perception of the real world and stuff like
that's
that.
how it is. I mean,
And
I really love in this regard how the show has a very flawed protagonist, and it matures him
Yes.
over time. You see him grow up.
yeah, like I said, I thought going into the show I was going to hate the shit out of Godai, but no, he's probably one of the best parts about it. At least when they enter like torture porn territory, which they don't do very often. But,
yeah, it's incredibly wonderful too. The show has a lot of repetition going on, but it does so in a good way. As I said on a server recently, the show has a way of unfolding in such a wonderfully indirect way, dancing the roundabout dance of emotion and the going-ons of everyday life, gradually closing in on its destination in an easy-to-predict yet delicate way. And I think that really emphasizes itself in a lot of the repetition in Maison Ikkoku, like when Godai first learns that Kyoko is a widow and he's like, "Oh man, now it's gonna be that much harder to get with her. If Soichiro had stayed alive for longer, she would have been able to see his flaws, but if he died young, then he's a saint in her mind forever." Yet, like, despite this initially extremely greedy and horrible attitude, around 20-30 episodes in or something, we get the bit where Godai acquires the letter that Kyoko sent Soichiro many years ago, that she's unsure about, and that put her mind into turmoil that could make her doubt Soichiro to some extent. He's ambivalent to some extent about giving it to her, but after a very short amount of deliberation, contradictory as that may sound, he does indeed give it to her, showing growth on his character, making the selfless decision, where as his respect for her grows and his level of caring for her grows, like at the same time, he also grows to respect Soichiro more, or rather pay more respect towards Soichiro and his legacy and the place he holds in Kyoko's heart. And then this goes even further later on when Godai acquires the rock that Soichiro gave to Kyoko as a Christmas gift, and he gives it to his friend to investigate.
I remember that one.
And yeah, when it gets lost, he like goes above and beyond to get that shit back because he treasures Kyoko's emotions that much.
Yeah, wasn't it like, it was during Christmas time, and he literally went across like several train stations in order to find that shit.
And he rummaged through garbage in the middle of crowds.
Dang.
Yeah, in like, I think it took like, I don't know, a couple episodes in fact. Like 2, I think. Maybe 1.5.
Yeah, it was 2.
Either way. Yeah, but either way, like the effort that he goes through really shows how much that he has grown. And I love the fact that at the very least they don't lay on his like adverse aspects of his personality way too thick, to the point where these surges of growth don't come off as genuine. They always do. They always really hit.
Yeah,
another episode that I.
Wait, they don't make him really bad. They just make him kind of normal bad. Like early on when Kyoko fell unconscious and he was going to kiss her when she couldn't do anything about it, which is obviously bad. It's not like, but it's bad. And then later he gets an opportunity to do it again in the hot spring episode, and it seems like he's sort of gonna do it if not for Mitaka's intervention. But then, like, after that, he just decides not to do it anyway. And yeah, the fact that he was going to do it at all is bad, but compared to before, we see a growth there. Just like the thing with the rock and the letter. We go from him briefly deliberating to him not thinking at all. He's just, going to return it to Kyoko. Yeah, he briefly doubts himself there, but still, he goes above and beyond, and that's what really matters. And then after that, he kind of leaves the Christmas party thinking of himself as being undeserving of being with Kyoko there, that I really like. Actually, that's another thing that I really like in the story. Like, self-consciousness and vulnerability.
That too. That's a big one there. And I think, like, speaking of Mitaka, by the way, I think him being introduced in... Yeah, we stand him because he, functioning as a rival for Godai, kind of helps put a lot of that shit in the center focus, because in the beginning he already gives off an air of like a lot of like the mature qualities, hashtag, right? And basically through butting heads with him, yes, that too. But like in regards to how he factors in Godai's development, they do such a good job of having when they butt heads, there's always a sort of small change in each of them with almost each encounter, at least in Godai's part, which is great.
It's weird, right? There seems to be an upward trajectory on Godai's part, but almost like a downward trajectory on Mitaka's part. Like when he breaks his leg so he can be in the same hospital room as Godai and so he can be visited by Kyoko and be taken care of by Kyoko. And that's like, I cannot picture Mitaka in the beginning doing that kind of dumb, selfish shit.
Yeah, that's like some Zack and Cody shit, bro.
Yeah, but like
I'm
later
pretty sure
Godai...
there was an episode like that.
Yeah, but later Godai, he would not do that shit. He would not stoop that low.
No. Yeah, his
That would
case
just
was
be
a
Mr.
legit
Mosby.
accident. Yeah. Imagine
Yo,
like,
could be
Mitaka
Mr.
being like,
Mosby.
yeah, imagine like Mitaka being all like, "Do you like M or food?"
Fuck, I love Zack and Cody.
Brindle.
I grew up on that shit. Right.
Oh my god. But yeah, like I think, like, it kind of factors into the whole sincerity thing I touched upon before, where it's like, with Mitaka, as smooth as he is and as experienced as he is, there's always a pretense. And as further as the series goes on, it kind of gets deeper and deeper into that hole, even though it doesn't really escalate his shitty behavior, it just kind of maintains it. But with Godai,
I
he
love
kind of
how
rises
much.
above it.
I love how much they present that aspect of his character, though, like, early on. Like, that time when he's butting heads with Godai, and they're doing the very unsubtle doublespeak, where he's like, yes, I have this and this and this. Youth is the only thing you have on me. And then, like, Godai's shit-talking him in that same way, and they're doing it, like, right in front of Kyoko that's sitting there like, yeah, this is normal. What a petty bitch.
Yeah.
I love Mitaka.
Yeah. Oh, overall, like, listen, motherfuckers out there, okay? If y'all can stand to watch fucking Dragon Ball Z Kai, which is a fucking over 100 episode show, which is a remake to a show that was made like, I don't know, 50 years ago right now, and you could stand to watch Maison Ikkoku, okay? It's legit good.
Fuck, if you can stand watching the romance in Lucifer, because Maison Ikkoku is like, it should be roughly the same length as Lucifer.
Yes.
What the hell is Lucifer?
It is a live-action procedural drama supernatural romance based off the character of Lucifer from Neil Gaiman's Sandman, the comic book series, I think, where Lucifer decides he doesn't like being the devil, fuck this shit, closes the doors of hell, and goes down to Earth to open a nightclub, whereupon he becomes a police investigation consultant for a young detective called Chloe Decker, and the series unfolds as more and more supernatural shit from Lucifer's former life comes more back to get him, and they solve cases together while falling more and more in love and deepening their relationship.
Because it does. Because of course it does.
It's not as cool as it sounds.
Really?
Yeah.
Because every time somebody brings it up, they always fucking jerk it off as if it's the best thing, but okay.
Yeah, people jerk off the good bits. They don't jerk off the bad bits, like all the meandering in Season 3.
Yeah, they jerk off the hard cocks, not the soft ones.
Exactly. Well, I mean, one's significantly easier to do than the other, so...
Speaking of...
Lucifer aside...
Yeah, speaking of limp dick adaptations, let's fucking talk about The World Ends With You, the animation.
No.
Spoilers, by the way, for a bit of the episode and the game from this point on. So
we're just gonna have like a spoiler thing flash at the start for all of these here, because we already did a bunch for Maison Ikkoku as well.
Hey, works for me.
fair.
You got to use the Kamen Rider Agito sound.
Yeah. Sadly,
that.
well, I don't really care as much as others do, but Ali is no longer doing VOP because of a scandal regarding the drummer, so that's just getting replaced with like a remix of one of the game songs for VOP. Fucking rip.
Right, which is, yeah, that's unfortunate. But even then, so as you guys
Off
know,
the EVs of anger,
I,
though.
yeah, but like, I love the World Ends With You game for the DS, which was like released, I don't know, 2006 or whatever. It's one of my favorite games ever. I remember playing it when I was like, what, 15 back in high school on the 3DS, because if you don't, you should, no game should force you to not use a fucking analog stick, okay? That's just fucking, that's the principle of the goddamn thing. But
when I
yeah,
get my
needless
3DS
to
back,
say,
I'll bear this in mind and buy the game.
yes, as you
Lucky
definitely
mine's
should.
broke.
Sucks for you!
Again, you pro. Yeah, sucks for you. Get over it, you pussy bitch. Anyways, fucking, the point is, The World Ends With You is fucking dope. It's great. It has incredibly funny dialogue. Its music is some of the best I've ever heard from Square's catalog, which says a lot. Almost every track is a fucking banger, and the characters are great. So, what the fuck did the anime? What the fuck, Square? The fuck is this shit? The hell is with what you did in the animation? Because, okay, I know. Keep in mind, game adaptations most of the time in Japan don't really work. Okay, they don't.
Look at Blaze Blue. I am still salty. I don't care if they got the music right and there's some other interesting things about it. It's still bad. Also, I'm taking a quick break in our manga cafe to indulge in our pastries.
I mean,
Yeah, gorge on that shit.
I
As you listen to my pain.
I mean, fair enough. I'm enjoying some coffee, and I'm pretty sure the nice owner lady, whose life I totally saved, very heroically, wouldn't mind giving one or two.
We're employees. We get this shit for free.
How are we employees?
I help here. I tidy up the place. Because
Yeah,
of the
I keep
hut,
track of the
we're able to do that
How
more
else are
efficiently
we-
than other humans.
How else are we employees exactly? Do we, as a Harrow, a Kamen Rider, and a Mega Man, just like work as kind of free advertisement? You know, like when a celebrity goes into a cafe and it's like, look, I'm a celebrity, I attract people, give me money. And that doesn't happen.
I thought you two
But-
always worked here, just as I did.
No.
Huh.
I saved the owner. I've done enough for life.
Okay, well, enough semantics for right now. Let's go back to the main big issue.
The world ends with you.
Yes, because, oh my god. So, I know compacting, like, I don't know, a 40 or 20 hour game to a fucking 12 episode anime is not going to work out very well. Shit is going to get cut out. God fucking damn it. The fucking spirit just gets sucked out of this show's asshole so fucking quickly. Okay? Because in the episode, they basically just skipped over about like 2 hours worth of content and major character shifts in like one episode, dude. Code, you played the game? Or are you familiar with it?
No, not really. All I know is that I think Lotus Juice is involved in the soundtrack. I know it's like a fun like Atlas thing. I think no, it's Square. I forget.
No. No, Lotus Juice, as far as I'm aware, has not touched this project. Maybe Atlas has. It's kind of their aesthetic, but they definitely haven't been closely involved. It's mostly a Square affair. But like,
But I know it's somewhat related
Okay.
to Kingdom Hearts, somewhat. And
Yeah,
like, so a lot
Tetsuya
of Kingdom
Nomura.
Hearts fans are also fans of this.
Wait, I do actually want to hear about the fucking anime, though.
okay, yeah, it's fine. But like, because what? Okay, so basically the whole show in the game is about this kid named Neku Sakuraba who dies and gets basically sent to like a parallel version of Shibuya where he has to commit to a bunch of challenges and shit during the Reaper's game.
Oh no, it's a
done
hell
by-
isekai.
Yeah. Not like that, but kind of. You know, he's basically like a walking ghost, fighting monsters and completing challenges, so that he can come back to life in the real world, and also grow as a person.
This sounds
because,
like
of
Kamen Rider
course, you do.
Ghost.
Yes, but it's
You
actually
hate
good.
Ghost.
Yeah, but the
Yes, but
premise
this is
cool.
better. Yes, but the game is better than Ghost, at least. Probably not this.
It probably doesn't
Because,
have as cool a
okay,
theme,
I will fight you on that later. But the point is, they dulled down so much of the fucking dialogue. And granted, there was a lot in the game, so I know that a lot of shit was going to get cut down. But because, like, here's the thing, Neku is kind of like old Cloud Strife, right? Like, he's an asshole and emo and shit, but he's quippy. Okay? You know, he's a snappy guy. It's conveyed in his dialogue. Yes. But like in the anime, they dialed it back so much because they kind of just have to keep skipping to certain set pieces, right? And like, here's the thing. This is one of the big things that really pissed me off, okay? Because, okay, at the beginning of the game, he meets this girl named Shiki, who he makes who's also a player in the game, who he makes a pact with in order to use his powers, which has to do with, like, using pins in order to do different shit, which is actually pretty baller. And to be fair, the fight scene in the episode is pretty alright, aside from the bad, wonky CGI.
Oh
but,
yeah, the anime is like that weird CGI. It's trying to capture the aesthetic of the games, but it looks iffy to me.
Yeah, same here. But like, what happens is that after they fight the Noise, which are the monsters in this whole thing, they basically just skip over to Neku being goaded by the Reapers, who are basically the rulers of the game, at least the lower level Reapers, into almost killing Shiki. But here's how significant this was in the game, okay? Because it had to do with Neku not only already having a pretty shitty disposition anyways, but it also has to do with the fact that, hey, he doesn't have any memories about how he died or even his old life before he died like the other players. So at that point, he's pretty much distrustful of everybody. And not to mention, Shiki herself was also hiding some shit about herself during this whole thing, on top of just the general craziness of the situation. We get to that point in the game where he almost kills the Whammon, which I'm pretty sure gives Lunkrit a pretty huge chub right now.
I will neither confirm nor deny that.
Yeah, it's significant because of the way it was done and how the Reapers in the Reapers game were basically preying on Neku's insecurities in a much more in a much more compelling way. In this show, they not only skipped over all of that, but they basically had Neku almost kill Shiki based on mind control.
So what you're saying is that they Yu-Gi-Oh'd it?
Yes.
Actually, no. They more like cartoon for 10-year-olds did it.
Basically, yes.
So they 4Kids it.
Yeah, that's what they did. And like right after that, the secondary protagonists, Beat and Rhyme, they show up immediately after that, or like during that whole fiasco, instead of like a couple days after that point, because we have to get to the first major boss of the game. And because that's more important, right? Yeah, the point where Shiki and Neku actually like come together and forgive each other. Like, that happens literally immediately after this.
By the way, for anybody that gave a shit, I finished Vinland Saga, Ask a Lad, more like Ask a Chad, done.
Absolute goated units, and that ending was god tier.
Yes, oh my god. Can we talk about Vinland Saga now?
Yeah, let's do that for a bit. We've already went from Chad 80s anime to Virgin 2020s anime, 2010s anime. So let's go back to a
Fine.
Chad one.
Fine. I mean, I just mentioned it offhandedly because I didn't really care to talk about it, but at the same time, I wanted to close up that plot thread.
I mean, but
Cat
the
is just
ending
a
for
fucking
it
goat.
is just really good. Yeah. But just everything about that ending is just so fucking good to me. Number one, the conclusion that basically sparked Canut's turn, Prince Canut's turn, was really good and interesting. You know, that was actually really great. I mean, I knew that originally reading it, things was going to pop off once his attendant dies. Spoilers.
Yeah, I think I told you actually. I think I told you before. A lot of like developments in Vinland Saga feel way too sudden and spontaneous to me, and a little bit like you're just fast forwarding through character progression. That was not one of them. That felt, alright. That was cool. That was cool where he suddenly has that moment where it's like things click for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he realizes, oh, this is what he was doing now. This is what the guy was planning. We gotta capitalize on this now that he's basically just throwing himself under the bus.
Yeah. And like with Askeladd and like his effect on Thorfinn, especially in the ending, was great. Because
we can't call him Askeladd. You have to call him by his true name. Lucius Artorius Castus. As he says before, beheading the king.
It's pronounced Lucius. Lucius Artorius Castus.
I'm going by how the anime pronounced it.
You're going by it wrong.
Damn it, Japan.
Alright, enough of this cultural appropriation.
Enough of this racism, enough of this cultural butchering, this cultural dunking, this Orientalist nonsense, this, what other buzzwords can we use? Doesn't matter. Moving on.
Yeah, Japan, how dare you just fuck over Viking culture like that?
Yes, because it's Japan's fault.
Exactly. But like, I just love, I mean, granted, it's even greater with hindsight because I'm up to date with the manga, but even on its own, the whole ending where Thorfinn ends up not getting his revenge, and just being in a position where he literally has nowhere else to go, he has no real purpose.
Yeah, see, when you told me about when you told me about the fact that Thorfinn is put in a position where he can't have a proper duel with Askeladd, what I thought is that they were gonna do something clever where, like, he loses an arm or becomes crippled somehow, and so they just straight up cannot fight. I didn't expect them to go that route, because I thought that'd be kind of the obvious thing to do. Really shame on you for spoiling it to me, Kaiser, because that was the obvious answer. But either way, that's fine, because the devil's in the detail. It's not what happened, it's how it happened. Where Askeladd got taken down, Askeladd died, like, doing something that he really believed in. Like, I really love, by the way, that he has such a Rohan Kishibe moment. You can choose either this or this. I make my own option!
He dies by his own design, because he knows he was kind of just screwed over and put into a point where it's just like, if I don't act now, everything I worked for will come crashing down, because they're basically just throwing whales under the bus. Like, that three-part reaction he had once they said what they were gonna do, and so that got Floki to just realize, oh, this is his weakness. And so he just had to go through with just making a fuss and beheading the king.
Yeah, it really felt like the apex of his character, though. It really felt like the apex of his character, because the entire series he's been acting in a sort of selfish or self-preserving way, but you always get these little hints that despite the position he's in and the position other people hold him in, he's got like these other different, sometimes higher aspirations, but the series only ever nips at this. So like, at that final moment, he doesn't make the selfish decision. He doesn't die, he sacrifices himself.
Yes,
he
he
has
gets
that-
himself killed by his own design, both to make sure that everything he's worked for doesn't come to ruin, and also to complete the arc he set out for Canute.
Yeah, well, it wasn't really so much about Canute, that was more incidental. It's more so that he forced what he set out for Canute in service of completing his own goal. And that's interesting, the idea that Askeladd has something he cares about more than himself, and there, at his final moment, when it really matters, he puts that thing first, as opposed to the entire series where he's been putting himself first.
Yeah.
For he wanted out of this
the
life
sort
anyway,
of-
so even if it ended up being like a violent way to go out, it's still a perfect one, and man, or Thor.
Yeah, like the dichotomy between those two aspects of his character is really, really interesting. That's some of the best parts in, like, even to the series, even to this day, in my opinion. Because yeah, it always seemed like even when he's doing things for himself, there's always been like a hint that there's a reason why he has eyes on the bigger picture that allows him to succeed more than most would.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And the
having said
fact
that,
that
though,
he isn't.
I do have a tiny nitpick. Personally, I would have preferred if his backstory was told to us verbally in a brief fashion. I thought that it was like a little bit overexplored because they really went into that. Oh yeah, we really didn't need this. I'd have liked him to be like a little bit more mythologized, but whatever.
I'd
think-
generally rather take that than just like a plain old exposition dump.
Yeah, and also I don't think. I think mythologizing it would maybe be a bit antithetical to that moment, wouldn't you think? Because this is the moment where, like you said, is practically the apex in his development, where he decides to lay his cards on the table and go after the things that he matters, even if it meant sacrificing himself. And in doing so, we, the audience, gets revealed to who he really is and how he got this way.
Yeah, it really
Becomes
really
a double
cuts to the-
kingmaker, kinging himself, and then forcefully getting Canute to king himself.
Yeah, it really cuts to the bone of the character. By the way, really obvious visual, but I really like the bit where the crown is flying off the king's head in the air, and then it just like perfectly circles around Canute's face. It's like, yeah, okay, it's obvious,
Yes.
but I don't care. I like it.
Yeah.
Also, just
Music
the
was
final,
also dope.
Yeah, the final bit with Thorfinn too, that almost made me tear up. That just like final moment where Thorfinn's holding Askeladd in his arms, and like they have that exchange. That's great. I love that.
The first time I read that, I fucking bawled my tears out, dude. That was incredible.
Yeah, just like the fact
my
that
God.
he basically was just like, "Come on, man, we gotta get you out of here." And he's just like, "What are you waiting for? Kill me. Now is your chance." Like, no, not like this. And just giving him one final lecture, just like, what are you gonna do with your life now? You gotta forge your own path, just like your dad did. Well, he has nothing. He doesn't have his dad anymore. He
Yep.
could have just walked away from all this and went back with his family, just like Leaf motherfucking Erickson wanted him to. He's just like, come with me, we can get you out of
Who
this.
is also a
And he's
chick.
like, no, I am not going anywhere until I get my revenge. So now that's out of the picture for a while. And now that he can't get his revenge, and he's basically just he has nothing and no one.
By
And
the
he's just
way,
at his lowest point.
just
And
when
it
you had that-
hurts. This was where his arc was coming
just when you had
down
that,
to for a while. It's a perfect downer ending for what we have now.
Hey, just putting that there, I
Yes.
was actually talking to my dad, who has a bachelor's as a historian, the other day, and he told me about something interesting that I didn't know. We all know that Leif Erikson was real, but apparently Sven and Canute were also real figures, and there was also like that continuity going on in real life, so Vinland Saga is actually doing like a little bit of historical embellishing and recontextualizing there, which I didn't know. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, same for Thorfinn, who I believe he went under a different name and wasn't necessarily as involved with these events in real life as he is in the anime.
Yeah, Thorfinn Karlsefni was a real dude.
Yeah.
I think that's his last name.
Yeah. By the way, I believe we're done with this chapter, but before we kind of head towards the impending end of this podcast, I mean recording, I mean discussion, I mean podcast, let's talk a little more about Maison Ikkoku. Because we didn't address the thing that I think is the absolute most important in Maison Ikkoku, the real heart of the series, which is Kyoko, and just like the underlying sense of grief and presence of her dead husband Soichiro that looms over like so many of the interactions and the comedy and the drama.
Yeah. Yeah, and pretty much in every part of the show, that is always being put in so much center focus.
Yeah,
and
the
like, I
series-
just love the moments. Yeah, like I always love the moments where like the show just kind of slows down and just has moments where like Kyoko's just inside of her room, just thinking and feeling to herself with almost no dialogue.
Yeah, I really
Like,
love the
holy
fact
shit,
that-
actual subtlety in an anime. Holy
Yeah.
fuck.
I really love the fact that the show takes the time to stop and smell the roses, so to speak. Like, the first time that they reveal that Soichiro was her husband and isn't just the name of her dog, like, we have this moment where just, like, it's such a line drop. The wind blows all around. It creates such a sense of atmosphere where it's just blowing through the flowers and we have this sense of silence. And it's one of the first bits of the series where we're really taken... where our perspective as the viewers is really taken from out up Godai's ass, where it was the entire time, and we see a little bit of the bigger picture of what's really going on.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was absolutely wonderful. Like, this woman's grief and self-consciousness and insecurity is so wonderful when it clashes with her sort of caring nature and her affectionate nature. And her growing feelings for Godai, and just her sense of vulnerability. You said something about indecisiveness, but that also goes for her. Where on one hand she has
Oh
growing
yeah, I was
feelings
about to
for
mention
Godai.
her.
Yeah, whereas her feelings for Godai grow, her feelings of guilt by her dead husband also grow, and her sense of vulnerability of getting close to another man and wanting to be needed again. That's why the hospital episode is so great, because that whole thing starts because Godai doesn't want to open up to her about this personal problem that he's been having, and he's trying to handle that himself, growing more and more independent, and she feels like she's not needed. She feels vulnerable to some extent. She feels the limits of what she can do for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and at that point, in the end, where it basically counted anyways, Godai was in a position where he was able to look after her for a change, if not briefly. Although it got him into the hospital, but still.
Yeah, well, it wasn't so much as a result of that. It was just him doing an accident. But what I really love there is that this is kind of the trajectory of the series. Godai is a child becoming an adult, and Kyoko is a childish adult, or an adultist child, where she still has very much of these tendencies to her, and she's only aged in this particular way, and you really see that immaturity of hers there. And so it's so refreshing seeing Godai being the adult for a change, and just like berating her of like, why did you do this? Why didn't you ask me for help? Why did you endanger yourself? And that was so wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, it really kind of puts into so much focus that both of these people need to grow in a way, grow into the very people that they need for each other to be. And not just for each other, but also for themselves. Because what's becoming apparent, especially in like the episodes going along in like the 40s, but definitely later on that I've noticed, is that for especially for a long stretch of the series, Godai kind of starts setting personal goals for himself. Granted, of course, they're also in the scope of like, hey, I want to get with Kyoko and all this other shit, but it's becoming less and less like mired in that goal. Yes, it becomes less about that and more like, I want to be an actual adult. I want to be a person who can actually be responsible, who doesn't get pushed around. I want to say what I'm thinking honestly and be proud of who I am and do things that I want to do.
Yeah,
and I also want to be that person because that's exactly who she needs.
Yeah, and it's interesting where the more he matures, the more we see more of Kyoko's childishness and her flawed nature as the power dynamic becomes more and more equal. Like, one of my favorite stories is around the 20s, or no wait, it was episode 30 and maybe 31, where Godai moves out of the apartment and we have a misunderstanding where Kyoko thinks he moved out to shack up with this one really hot woman, when in fact he moved out because he thought that she was getting married to Mitaka, and he couldn't bear to be around those two when he loves her. So, when he asks to come back, after he learns, like, I think what was going on or something, and just how bad his current circumstances are after he moved out, she, not being able to bear the fact that what they had meant something only to her, but not to him, not being able to stand being vulnerable to him in that way, only for that not to mean anything to him, and sort of being replaceable. That whole thing, she wasn't able to stand being around him, much like how he was unable to be around her before when he thought she was getting married, and so she lied to him about the rooms being taken. But the interesting thing is that after the phone rang so many times earlier in the episode, and she picks it up and never hears what he has to say, he hears a bit of what he has to say that time, but it's only both going under misconceptions. And the way she approaches the phone while it rings, she has this sense of dread in her eyes. Her hand trembles, moves slowly, it's absolutely silent. And the way she interacts with the cord of the phone, it's almost like she resents it, or like she's fighting it. You get all these little hand gestures and the look in her eyes, all of this stuff, where even though they're having like a normal casual conversation, albeit under misunderstandings, you can tell how much of this is hurting her, and how much her how much of her vulnerability is being brought to light. And I really like that, this overarching thing with Kyoko, where she's scared, where she feels guilty for moving away from the idea of Soichiro and what they had, their relationship, or the idea of doing so, and being comfortable with Godai, and insecure about the idea that she doesn't mean as much to him as he means to her, and so she kind of heirs to that side of comfort, which is as things were before. Her, the widow, her dead husband, and just people not being involved with her in that way.
Yeah, it's a very, very, not really melancholy, but soberingly somber show at times. And I think that really serves as to further facilitate, just as you said, the heart of the series. Which is pretty fucking dope in my opinion. I wish more shows this.
Yeah, it's a very interesting way of presenting bad faith on her part without making her seem petty. You really understand that this is a very sensitive and vulnerable woman that's been through a lot, and just how much seemingly insignificant things can really hurt her. Similarly to Godai in some respects. That's why I said the series dances this roundabout dance of emotion in the goings-on of daily life. You always have these two people ultimately bound or tethered to each other by the red string of fate, destined to eventually be together, matching each other so well, yet concurrently all of these things happen that constantly draw them together and push them away, but never quite split them apart. Or too quickly bring them together, where they're able to have that perfect understanding or insight. There's just all of these forces that keep them close, but not too close. Far, but not too far.
I guess with all that, I guess we can just close it out here.
Also, please,
There's
people
anything-
need to watch Macross. I grew up with Robotech as a kid. Oh my god, now that it's actually getting this opportunity, I need to rewatch Macross Plus Movie Edition. I have the fucking DVD.
Yes.
Let's go. This
Also
domestication
play The
shall be
World Ends With You
celebrated
game.
properly.
Also, play The World Ends With You game. The anime sucks. There you go.
Also, watch Maison Ikkoku. It's one of the most wonderful stories of love, affection, and vulnerability that I've ever seen, and I highly recommend it. I could not recommend it more, in fact.
Also watch Vinland, it's great.
Villains to go.